This is Bossa Nova Ostinato 1. For this lesson, I've included a PDF document that you can print so that you have the entire lesson that you're going to see here on the video on paper. So go ahead and print out your PDF document and follow along. I have two different ostinatos. One of the things I want to tell you about the Bossa Nova is that it's more or less what I would consider more of a ballad. It's beautiful. For the most part, it's soft. So you have to be careful with regards to the weight of your sticks. You don't want a stick that's too heavy to play this style with. The other thing is that you want to be very careful as to how everything sounds. So make sure that you aim for more or less the middle of the ride if you're on the ride. If you're on the hat, you want to make sure that you play about, I would say, a ½ inch or more to the shaft of the stick. And when you're playing eighth notes, which in this case you will, you're going to interpret the Bossa Nova in 4/4. Okay, so when you're going to play eighth notes, you're going to play cross stick on the snare drum. And when you do that and you're playing eighth notes on the hat, you have to make sure that your hat is relatively tightly closed. And you can play straight eights, but you can also slightly accent whatever notes you're playing with your left hand also on your right hand. So don't exaggerate it, but you can slightly accent it, and it's okay to do that. There are different ways to get a really good sound from your cross stick on your snare drum. So what I'd like to do is demonstrate that for you. First of all, make sure that the palm of your hand is flat on the snare drum so that basically you're muting this head by doing that. And then you're going to put the tip of the stick just about, I don't know, I would say maybe an inch from the edge of your drum. And then you can also try to find different sounds, something that sounds warm and good to you by moving the stick around. So I'll demonstrate that a little bit for you. If you hit the stick somewhere like right over the lug, sometimes you can get a really good sound that way. So by moving the stick, you can get different sounds, as I just demonstrated. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the very first ostinato. And in that first ostinato, you're going to be playing the hi-hat, eighth notes on the hi-hat. You're going to be playing a consistent bass drum, which is dotted quarter note, eighth note, dotted quarter note, eighth note. And I will demonstrate just the ostinato for you. Okay, the part that's going to be moving around and speaking is going to be your cross stick. You're going to read simply quarter notes that are going to be throughout the bar. This is a 2-bar phrase, basically. The bars are written differently in the second bar as often as possible, whenever it's possible, so that you get used to seeing the same rhythmic pattern played exactly the same way the second bar, but it's going to look different. So, for example, in the first bar, you have a quarter note and 3/4 note rest, and then in the second bar, you have a half note and a half note rest, and yet the rhythm is still the same. So what I'll do is I will play the ostinato for you, and then I will play each of the 6 examples, okay? If you have the Brazilian book, there are a lot of these examples for you to play. in that book, and I believe it's page 15, Brazilian Coordination for Drum Set. And so if you have the book, I think it's page 15, so try that. Those are all quarter notes. What follows after that, I think on page 16, you have 4-bar phrases. There's 8 of them. So you can actually read the page all the way down, and that would be a nice challenge for you to try to do that. So let me go ahead and play the ostinato for 2 bars, and then I will play each of the 6 twice, okay, for you to listen to. Here we go. Okay, so I actually played each example one time through and I went all the way down. Okay, I'm going to play the second ostinato for you. In this ostinato, you're adding a third voice. The third voice is going to be your hi-hat on 2 and 4, played with the foot. Make sure that you aim towards the middle of your ride cymbal and that you listen carefully to the sound you're producing. The bass drum is still the same as the ostinato prior to that. I will play it for 2 bars, and I will play the exercises cross stick. And you can also play them on the snare drum. If you do that, you want to make sure that you play it with a very light touch. So I will first play it with the cross stick on the snare drum, and then maybe I'll go back and repeat it on the snare drum just so that you can get an idea of the touch and how lightly you need to play this. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'll play ostinato number 2 again on the snare drum, and you'll see I will play it with a very light touch. I play traditional, but you can do it match grip as well. Just make sure that your stick does not come up too high off of the head, because if you do that, you're going to be at a volume that's not really correct for the style. So you want to make sure that you keep your stick very low to the head of the drum. Okay, so that you can get the right feel and touch for it. Here we go. Okay, so obviously this tempo is more on the medium side of the bossa nova. And basically what it is the idea came from the samba, and it's just slowed down to the point to where now you're interpreting this in 4/4 as opposed to cut time. So when you actually practice all of these examples, you want to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and at a minimum you can count 1 part counting 1, 2, 3, 4. But since your bass drum is actually playing a combination of quarters and eighths, you might want to actually use 2 part counting. Okay, I hope you have a really good time with this, and you get it together and start feeling so that it makes sense to you and it's groovy. And until next time, you take care and drum on.